service today, but at the mention of his name, there's some things that we got to call out when we call the name of Jesus. He's our healer. He's our provider. He's our deliverer. He's our protector. He's our father, our mother, our house, our car, our way maker, our protector. There's some things that we got to call out. He's everything. I don't think y'all get that. He's everything. And when you look at everything that you've been through, there should have been 2 or 3 or 4 people that should have jumped out of their seat when you thought about everything that you've been through and you were able to make it here to New Covenant Community Church today. Everything that you've been through. When you think about health problems, I had a heart condition, but God. They tried to take my degree from me, but God. They tried to take my joy, my peace, my happiness, but God. Does anybody have a but God praise in the building this morning? I don't really believe that you got a but God praise in the building. Has God done anything for you this morning? Has he made a way out of no way for you? This is our celebration worship service, and we come to celebrate the youth today, but I believe that we all got a little bit of youth on the inside of us. So I'm going to take about 10 seconds, and we just going to praise, and we going to give God all the glory, honor, and praise for everything. However you need to do it, he's that good. God, you didn't have to do it, but you did. God, you didn't have to do it, but you did. God, you're everything to me today. In the name of Jesus. We serve a mighty good God today, church. And I don't know what everything is to you, but I know what everything is to me. And it feels mighty good on the inside to know that he's everything to me. Amen. Amen, amen, amen. Is everybody all right this morning? Is everybody all right this morning? I told you we're going to get hype in here today because it's Youth Recognition Sunday and the Spirit of God is all in this place today. So I'm just going to let the Spirit take place. We're going to move into the Word this morning. Brother Tyrone, I know we have an introduction of speaker, but I'm going to put my little plug in this morning. Brother Tyrone has been just that, a brother to me. He's been a cousin, a mentor, an inspiration. He's been A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But one thing that I learned over the years of watching him is that he's the most humble person that you will ever meet. And when he can put himself aside and let his light still shine for other people, that's somebody that you want to grow up under. So youth today and everybody else, as he comes forward and he brings forward his message today, I want you to really take in what he has to say. Not just, oh, let me listen to the speaker today. I need you to really dissect what he says today. Because there are individuals in your lives that really do make a difference without you even knowing it. So when he comes up, I want you just to listen. I want you to take it to heart. Don't just listen with your ears, but listen with your heart. And let's greet his wife as she comes and does a formal introduction. And the next voice you will hear will be none other than Brother Tyrone. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
All right. Amen.
So I'm Curtis or Tyrone. I call him either. I thought I would introduce him by telling his story because I think it's where a lot of youth in this room, they can kind of relate because you're probably moving into this phase of your life. But he was a soccer star. He ran a 4:20 mile. He went to JMU for track, and he had a ton of successes. He was in the paper. That was his identity. His identity was being an athlete. And then he got to JMU, and they wanted him to run 75 miles a week. And he was a soccer player. He'd never done that, so he got injured. He got a bunch of stress fractures. And this thing that he built his whole life on was taken away. And so so he went through a really dark time for about 7 years. And through that process of going through that really dark time, he learned to change his mindset and not base everything on what he could do or his circumstances. And so that led him on a journey that he went to school, and then he got a master's degree, and then he got a degree in life coaching. And one thing that I think sets him apart is that he is not constrained by a lot of the ways of thinking or ways of interpreting things that other people are. And so I think that's something that he'll be able to share with you today, is how he was able to change his mindset to overcome a lot of the trials that I'm sure each of you have been through. Amen. And so I just welcome him. I'm obviously biased, but I think he has a lot of great things to share. So here he is.
All right.
My son is going to be able to relax while but yeah, thank you, Justin, for that introduction. Thanks, Hannah, for that introduction. Thanks, Angie and Diane, for inviting me to come and speak. Angie said, you don't need to preach, you don't need to come and preach, but I would like for you to come and give a message of empowerment to our youth. It's a motivational type weekend, and so I really like for you to come and do that. And so that's exactly what I want to do. Just like Justin said, I'm hyped. Yeah. The reason why I'm hyped is because if I would have known when I was y'all's age, what I'm about to communicate to you guys today, I feel like my journey would have been a lot less difficult. Yeah. It would have been a lot more ease. As Hannah said, I went through a 7-year depression where I was so depressed that my dad actually came to me, asked me if he needed to put me in a psychiatric home. I was at that place. All right. It would, I would be in the bed for 14, 15 hours, couldn't even get out of bed because I was so depressed. And we're talking about somebody who, like she said, I played Olympic development soccer. I was prom king of my high school. I got along with people. I knew how to relate. I knew how to talk and all these things. But when I went through this depression, it completely destroyed my life. I had to build up again from the ground up type thing. And so today I want to talk with you guys a little bit about that. What I want to talk with you guys about is dreaming big. That's the first thing. And living into the largeness of your dreams. That's what I want to talk with you about. Dreaming big and then living into the largeness of your dreams, okay? And so let me start off by asking you a question. How many of you today, this time next year, want to be in the same grade that you're in right now? Good answer. Okay, good answer. No? Okay. How many of you are athletes or do some kind of, whether it's not athletics, but, some kind of art, whether it's singing or a musical instrument? How many of you want to be at the same exact skill level that you're at right now next year? Good answer. No feedback. Okay, how many of you all, this one's for the parents, how many of you all have jobs where you would like to be at the exact same, same income? Not the same job, but the same exact income right now for the rest of your life? No. Nobody. Okay. The reason why I asked that is because naturally we are all creatures of increase. All right. That's what we are. That's why nobody had a yes for me on any of those things. It's because all of us are creatures of increase. We expect to be at the next grade next year. We expect to grow in happiness. We don't want to be at the same level in our life this year as we are now 5 years from now. We want to grow. We're creatures of increase. When you look at the trees, when you look at the grass, when you look at everything in nature, it's increasing or it's beginning to fade away. Yes. And evolve and transform into something different. And so today I want to talk to you guys about dreaming big
Yeah.
and then living into the largeness of your dream or your ability to increase.
Yeah.
So the first glimpse that I had of this when I was in college back at JMU and I was depressed and everything was going wrong. I had a 1.8 GPA. I was failing out of college. All of these things. I couldn't run anymore because I had 3 stress fractures in my shin. In the middle of all of these things that were going on, all these negative things that were going on at the time, I don't know where I got this idea from. Maybe because I had begun writing some poetry and things like this. But I told my friends, I said, I'm not ready yet. But I don't know, maybe 10 years from now, I don't have enough experience right now. But maybe 10 years from now, I would really like to write my first book. I don't know where that idea came from. Nobody in my family that I know of had written a book. But that's what I said. I said, I want to write a book. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but 10 years from now. Now, fast forward, I went into the military. And in fact, I was supposed to go into the military on September 11th, 2001. My dad called me up.
Yeah.
You still going in? Yeah. Why wouldn't I be? Why don't you turn on the TV, son? Why don't you turn on the TV? The planes had hit the towers, obviously, and then also had hit the Pentagon, which was only 15 minutes away from our house. That changed everything, but it didn't change any of my reasons for wanting to go into the military. So I said, yeah, I'm still going. The recruiters came back the next day. They put us all on buses, and then we went up to boot camp. But so anyway, I went into the military, went through a lot of these changes. I bumped into this guy out on the ship, and I had kind of come through my depression a little bit. I wasn't as depressed as I was. I was able to operate in society again. I bumped up into this guy on the ship, and he was using his poetry in a very, can anyone hear me? I don't even. There you go. Now it's up. Okay. So anyway, there was a guy on the ship, and he was using his poetry in a very inspirational way, and he shared it with me, and it completely revived my willingness to write. I hadn't written in 3 years, and so when I went home, I started writing again, and it just started pouring out of me. And I just started writing poems and poems and poems, and then people started inviting me to speak and all these different things. And so what ended up happening was about 10 years later, after I got my master's degree and I was about to go do my first book signing, I thought back to when I was depressed 10 years ago.
All right.
And that thing that I had told to my friends, I'd really like to write a book. And I didn't even know that I was writing a book, but all my friends had been telling me, hey, why don't you compile these into a book type thing. And so I started putting that together, and it just happened to be 10 years later, after my depression, after I was first depressed, that all of this kind of came together. I didn't even know that it was happening.
Yeah.
And so what I want to talk with you guys about is you have to get intentional about what it is that you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And so that's why I was listening to this lady one time. She says, when you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny.
Yeah.
Even when I didn't even realize that I was doing it, I had already set the intention, I want to write a book. And so God and the universe and everything started forming around me to bring that into my life. And I didn't even know that it was happening. So had I have known that the universe worked like this, had I had known that God worked like this,
Yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't have just asked to write a book.
Yeah.
I would have been asked to be a bestseller.
Yeah.
I would have been asking to be a full-time author. And so now a lot of my desires have changed because I know when you set your intention and you're intentional about it and you follow through with your passion, a lot of these things can come to pass. A lot of these things can happen. One of the greatest stories that I've ever heard on this topic was in an entrepreneurial book that I read. And it starts out, it's just about this little girl back in the times of sharecropping, okay? And her mom told her, I want you to go to the owner of the land, and I want you to go and get the 50 cents that he owes me. Now this is a little African-American girl.
Yeah.
And she's talking to a Caucasian man, we're talking 70 years ago. It's a different time period,
Yeah.
okay? And yet she went in to this big warehouse went into this big warehouse, and she says, "Excuse me, sir. My mammy says she's got to have her 50 cents. Easy, buddy. Easy, buddy. We got to the punchline yet. Okay. He's a screamer, as you can tell. But anyway, she walks into the warehouse, and she says, "Excuse me, sir. My mammy's got to have her 50 cents. And he says, "I'll not do it. Now get out of here." And she says, "Yes, sir." But she didn't move.
All right.
She didn't move. She stood right there. And he went back to his work, and he's writing and penciling down everything that he needs to write. And then he looks back up and realizes that she's still there. And he said, "Now, didn't I tell you to go?" He said, "Now get out of here, or I'm going to take a switch to you." Okay? And she said, "Yes, sir." But she did not move. So he looks up again and sees that she's still there. He picks up a barrel stave and he starts running at her. Now, his nephew was there, and he said that he felt like he was about to witness a murder. That's what, because he knew that his dad, his uncle, didn't take no mess, and he knew that in that time period, African Americans weren't supposed to do anything like this. She didn't care. Her mom told her what she needed to do, and so she was there. And so he began running at her with this barrel stave. And as soon as he got within 3 feet of her, she took one step forward and said, "My mammy's gotta have that 50 cents.
Yeah.
He stopped, put the barrel stave down, he reached in his pocket, pulled out the money, and he gave it.
Yeah.
So why are you telling me this story? The reason why I'm telling you this story is because she had two things. The two things that she had were she had an earnest desire for what she wanted. She knew what she wanted, just like I knew I wanted to write that book. She knew what she wanted, and she had the determination to never stop until she got what she was asking for.
Yeah.
You guys understand what I'm saying? Yeah. If you have that, there's nothing that will be impossible to you.
Yeah.
Nothing. That man went and stood and sat on the windowsill and looked out the window for about 30 minutes, trying to understand the whooping that he had just taken by this little girl.
Yeah.
Sat there for 30 minutes trying to figure it out. And his nephew, he was completely baffled too. He had no idea how this could have happened. And he went on to become one of the best salesmen of his time. So this little girl's story has been told over and over and over again to so many different business professionals all across the world, type thing, because of her willingness and her determination. And they say that if you have that, there's nothing that you can't accomplish.
Amen.
Those two things, right?
Yeah.
Nothing that you can't accomplish. So she was the smallest one in the room, but she became the biggest. And I'm going to be talking to you guys about living into your own largeness. I got a buddy, he's in a company that I work for now. 3 years ago, he was picking up trash for the city of for the city of Miami down in Florida. 3 years ago, picking up trash. That was his job. But he had a bigger vision for himself. He wanted to help people all over the world, and he wanted to inspire people all over the world. There's a motivational speaker who died a couple of years ago. He says, you can have anything in life that you want if you can just help enough other people to get what they want.
Yeah.
What is that? That's service.
Yeah.
That's service.
Yep.
If you dedicate yourself to serving people and helping them in a big way, you can have anything in life that you want. Now, he has been recognized as one of the youngest, wealthiest network marketers in the world. He made over $1.2 million last year, and it's only his 3rd year in the company.
All right.
And now he's an executive vice president. He went from picking up trash off the beach
Yeah.
All right.
to now a place of honor, and now he is an executive vice president in our company only 3 years later. You guys hear what I'm saying
Yes.
here?
Yes.
You guys hear what I'm saying? The possibilities that you have if you can just get your mind on something that you want. be determined that you want it. Because remember, when you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny.
Yes.
There's a poem that I love around this topic of being small and being big, okay? And this is what it says. It's an ancient poem, but this is what it says. It says, the small person builds cages for everyone they know. What are they doing? They're keeping people small. They're already small themselves, and then they want to keep everybody else small. They're building cages for everyone they know, right? But the sage or the wise person, right, who has to duck his head when the moon is low. This person isn't small. This person is so big that he might bump his head on the moon. Now bear with me. I know there's some poetic language where he says, but the wise person who has to duck his head when the moon is low keeps dropping keys all night long for all the beautiful, rowdy prisoners. Okay, this person, this large person, is constantly helping other people to get free.
Yeah.
Serving people, helping people, expanding people. Okay? When you get a vision for yourself like that, you can go from being small, picking up trash off the beach, doing what you don't want to do, to doing what it is that you do want to do.
Yes.
You gotta get a vision for your life. As the proverb says, you know, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yes.
You don't have any vision,
Yes.
people are gonna perish. So you gotta get a vision of exactly what it is that you want to do and then move forward like that. So a good counselor, a good friend, a good mentor, a good pastor, a good parent, a good coach will help you to break out of small-minded thinking.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The danger of small-minded thinking is that it compels other people to live in a small capacity as well.
Yes.
Right? But the beauty of thinking big, the magic of thinking big, is that it compels other people to live into their largeness. And that's what I'm calling you guys to do. And that's what, if you've ever had a good coach, if you've ever had a good, I know you guys have had good pastors, if you guys have ever had a good friend, they're going to see things in you that you don't see in yourself, and they're going to call those things out of you and say, hey, you have so much more inside of you that you don't even know about yet.
Yes.
Amen. Amen.
And I want you to live into that. So I'm just real brief. I'm going to talk about 3 things. That's dreaming big, okay? Dreaming big, getting a new image of yourself, and then following your passion. Dreaming big, getting a new image of yourself, and then following your passion, okay? The coach of Notre Dame, I don't even know if he's still coaching there, but you guys have heard of Lou Holtz before?
Yes.
Lou Holtz, okay? He's a legendary coach in football. He was depressed, incredibly depressed at one time. He had just lost his job. They had kids. He didn't know what he was going to do. And his wife reached out to him and said, I want you to read this book that I have here. The name of the book was called The Magic of Thinking Big. He said, okay, I have nothing to lose. I'll read this book. He reads this book. In there, it says, I want you to write down a list of everything. It doesn't matter how big it is, how ridiculous you think it is. I want you to write down everything that you want to accomplish in your life.
Yes.
He's like, okay, I'll take this on. I have no idea where this is going, but I'll do this. He wrote down 107 things that he was interested in doing, among them being the coach of Notre Dame. Now, he's depressed. He doesn't have a job.
Yeah.
Okay? He had just been fired. He has no possibilities going on in his life or anything like that. Okay? So he wrote down being the coach of Notre Dame. He wrote down wanting to win national championships.
Yeah.
Who writes this kind of stuff when you're in his situation? Okay? But he said, I'll do it. The next thing that he wrote was he said, I wanted to meet the Pope. He said he wanted to hit a hole in one. All these things, accomplish all these things in his lifetime. Bigger things than he could imagine. So that's what he wrote. To this day, this story that I had read was back in 1999 that was written. So in 1999, I believe like 98 of those things had already been accomplished. 97 things. He got to meet the Pope. He got to meet the president in the White House.
Yeah.
He got to, all of these things just started coming to pass. And so that's why they say you have to get intentional about the things that you want in life.
Yes. Yes.
Amen.
Jesus says, when you ask for something,
Yeah.
what? Believe that you've already received it.
Yes.
That takes big faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
That takes big faith. But when you do that, these kinds of miraculous occurrences can happen. Okay? You set your mind on things, and then you begin to attract these things into your life. I'm going to give an example of my brother. He was a big dreamer. He came out of VCU as an artist. And he told me when he came out of VCU, he said, I don't ever want to work for anybody ever in my life. And I said, man, it's already hard to be an artist. It's already hard to be an artist, but this kind of a vision, I don't know about that, man. And he said, that's what I want to do. So he's been making CD covers and been doing murals, and he's been doing, murals in restaurants and all over the world. He's been doing these things, and he just never gave up on his vision. Never gave up. And this year, he became a CEO of his own company. Right? He became a CEO of his own company. And now he's making more on his murals than some people make in a whole year.
Yeah.
In a whole year. Simply because he was dedicated to his vision, and he decided, I'm going to do this, whether I get paid for it big time or not, I'm going to do it. And he's been able to support himself and 4 kids simply because he never let go of his vision. So that's the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about is dreaming big. Doesn't matter what it is. Set your mind on what it is that you want. If it's something good, and move towards that thing with everything that you love. So that's the first thing, dreaming big. The second thing is get a new image of yourself. You got to get a new image of yourself.
Yes.
A good archer can hit a target that no one else can hit, while an expert can hit a target that no one else can see. Okay?
Yes.
An expert archer can hit one that no one else can see. Now, a good mentor will tell you things that other people won't tell you. But an expert mentor will tell you things about yourself and call out things about you that no one else can even see in you already.
Yes. Yes.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what a good mentor will do, is call things out of you that you can't even see. And I used to be, working with people in the hospital, helping them through cancer, helping them through, car accidents, helping them through all kinds of emotional and spiritual issues that they were going through. And so when I was there was this one lady, her husband was dying, and on his deathbed, he had said to her, this lady is like, she's about 5'1", okay, and she's in her 80s. She was in her 80s, and her husband saw something in her that she didn't see. He was getting ready to pass, and so he told her, she said, I'm scared. I don't know if I can live without you. He did everything. So after she died, she didn't have any of the passcodes to, to do any of the taxes, to pay any of the bills, to do any of these things. He took care of all of that stuff, and she had to start from ground zero and learn all of this stuff to do it all on her own type thing. And so when he was dying, he said on his deathbed, he said, there's a tiger in you.
Yeah.
That's what he said to her. There's a tiger in you. And she's this little old lady, and she's like, there's no tiger in me. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't do this without you. And he said, no, I see a tiger in you that you can't see in yourself. And so she stayed in my program for a whole 2 years. Every Wednesday, she came to my grief group. And she learned and learned and learned, and we walked her through this process. And I brought in a picture one day. I don't know if you guys have seen these things floating around Facebook or whatever, but there's this little cat that comes up to this mirror. And in the mirror, it doesn't see a cat staring back. It sees a full-grown lion staring back. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
That's what her husband did for her. I said, I found this picture, and it really reminds me of you. And she said, why is that? And I held it up and I showed it to her. And she said, I know why. Because this is what my husband said to me, almost 2 years later. And so I said, you started out in this group, you were about to kill yourself because you were so depressed. And however, now, 2 years later, you're helping to mentor all these other people who are coming in at the same level as you, the same type of depression as you. You're helping all these other people and giving them a vision for their own life.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
Her husband's words were right. There was a ferocity in her that she didn't even know that she had in herself, that she had to grow into those things. And when you begin to set a vision for yourself and what it is that you want to do, you're going to pull things out of yourself.
Yes.
God's going to pull things out of you that you didn't even know that you had within you.
Yes.
Okay? When I was in the military, the Marines used to say, if you want to be the next title, don't wait until you get to the next title in order to start doing those things.
Yes.
He said, you need to start living it, doing all of those things now.
Yes.
Amen.
Already, and start, living into all those things already. Same thing that Jesus said. Don't wait until you've received it.
Yeah.
When you ask for it,
Yes.
already believe
That's
that
right.
you already have these things.
Yes.
You got to put on the consciousness already of where that you're trying to go. What I call that is not putting on the consciousness of failure,
Yeah.
not putting on the consciousness of defeat, not putting on the consciousness of self-hatred, is putting on the consciousness of accomplishment.
Yes.
That's what you got to do. You
Amen.
have to live into your accomplishments. So finally, this last thing here, and I'm going to close out, is to follow your passion. Follow your
Yes.
dreams. Follow those intuitive nudges that you get, that still small voice that you hear the pastor talking about. You have to follow
Yes.
those things, okay? And I'm going to close out just sharing my story with this. A few years ago, I told my wife, I said, I really, don't want to work in the hospital anymore. I really want to do this on a bigger scale. I really want to, I want to be a life coach. I want to be an author and, do these other things. Thankfully now, I've written 5 books now.
All right.
This book is coming out in a couple of weeks here, so I'm really excited about that. It's my first novel type thing, but a few years ago I told my wife I want to do all these things, and she said, okay, that's fine. Well, when we hit the lottery, you can do that. Because she's just being honest, we don't have that kind of money that you can just leave behind everything that we've worked towards and all this stuff. And so I said, okay, that's fine. But then I just started praying and asking, started asking and visualizing our family having enough finances to where I would be able to quit my job. So I was actually visualizing myself giving my resignation papers to my boss.
All right.
Now, I could have done that any day of the week, but it's different. What's different is I needed to know that we were going to have the finances to be able to do that. So that's where I began visualizing. My life began changing within about 6 months, and that was in the fall of 2016 or 17 that I was doing that. And I was hoping by the next summer that this could all come to pass. So that following summer, in May, I had a dream that I was up on top of this massive Navy ship, and I was being asked to jump into the water. And I knew I was going to make the leap in the dream. However, I didn't want to hit this. There was this thing in the water, and I didn't want to hit this thing on the way down. And so I'm just trying to navigate, how am I going to make this leap without hitting this thing and killing myself on the way down? And when I woke up from that dream, I woke up electrified because I knew a shift was coming. And so I told my wife, I said, Hannah, we got a massive shift coming. And she said, well, don't quit your job. Because she knows how idealistic I can be. Right? And so I said, listen, I would never do anything to put our family in jeopardy. However, I'm just saying I've had dreams like this before, and I know we have a massive shift coming. And so she says, okay, well, we'll see. 2 weeks later, we were living in California at that time, she got an opportunity for a job on the other side of the country here in Virginia Beach that was going to pay her double anything that she would get paid over there. Plus the cost of living in Virginia is much lower than California. You know what I'm saying? And so we were able to do that. I said, listen, you don't have to take this job if it's not a good fit for you. This is your career, and you do what you want. However, I would like it, but you don't have to do that. And so I said, you take that time and think about it. She came back to me and she said, listen, had you not told me about your dream, and had you not told me, been so solid on your intuition, I would have said, okay, this is a great opportunity, but there's no way that we're moving across the country when I'm 7 months pregnant. It's not going to happen. However, since you told me about your dream and you told me about your intuition, you were so solid on your intuition, I am going to take this position. And if you would like to start, building your business and, writing your next book, I'll give you the year off to do that.
My God.
Yeah.
So, again, when you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny. Now, this is the awesome thing. This is the awesome thing. When we were driving across the country, we stopped at her brother's house, and that night when we stayed at her brother's house, I had another dream, and in that dream, the contents of that dream became the 5th book that I just wrote. I feel like had I not taken that step out and followed my passion, I feel like I would have never gotten that dream, which would have became the book, because it was a book, it was a dream about quitting my job.
All right.
And so I feel like I would have never been able to write that book. So anyway, those are three things I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Is living into your largeness by getting a big dream for yourself. The second thing was, getting a new image of yourself, stretching your mind of what you can do and who you can become, and then following your passion.
Yes.
So I know I've spoken a little bit longer than expected, but thank you guys for having me. I wish you guys the best.
Come on, y'all, you can do better than that. Come on, get
All
that.
right. Amen.
Somebody should have got a book out of that. Amen. We want to thank Tyrone just for allowing God to use him. It is amazing what God will do. If you'll just have a big enough dream that he can get into. Sometimes we dream so small, God says, oh, you ought to be able to handle that. But I believe today that God has sent this word because there's something that God wants you to do today. God wants you to elevate your dream, your vision.
Yes.
This is a season where God is shifting things around. And I believe that today's message was divinely orchestrated by God.
Amen. Amen.
That God had to get Tyrone from the West Coast
All right.
to the East Coast
All right.
in time for today.
Yes, that's right. All right.
Because there's
All right.
something prophetic that God wanted to release into our spirits.
Amen.
Monte is here. Can I just share this little piece? We were at Morehouse for Monte's graduation. 4 years ago, we had him come and speak. And I said to him something that I've been saying to our young people, is that you're going to go to college, finish on time,
Amen.
and walk across the stage debt-free.
Amen.
We're seeing it.
Yeah.
Now, Monte had scholarships, full paid rides to different colleges, but he decided he wanted to go to Morehouse. Morehouse is $42,000 a year.
Semester?
And common sense said, take the free ride and be happy.
That's right.
But faith says, you have not because you ask not.
That's right.
And Monte shared this, that his grandmother said to him some time ago, Monte, whenever your resources don't match your vision, don't downsize your vision, upsize your faith.
All right. All right.
And at graduation, they had to change the speaker to get a new speaker. Now the original speaker was there, but they made a shift. And so the speaker got up and he talked about 7 principles, and one of them was you're going to need patience. And at the end of that long speech, he said, this is my graduating class. And my family is going to pay off the student loans for everybody in my class. That was a $40 million investment in the dreams of young people. And I shouted off that because I'm saying, man, he can go to law school now with no debt. Last week, God said something to me. He said, Milton, you missed part of it. I know you're shouting off of the debt free, but you missed part of it. And I'm slow sometimes. So I said, okay, God, help me with that. And he said, this is the key. He said, 4 years ago, I released that prophetically through you. That Monte was going to graduate on time. And his debts were going to be canceled when he walked across the stage. But don't stop there. He said, now I had to pay off 396 students' debt to keep his promise. This is a season where God is doing phenomenal things. And God is raising up champions who will dare to dream big and then live in the largeness of your dream. So Tyrone, words aren't adequate to thank you for being faithful to God. I got to thank your wife. Thank you. Amen. Today, I believe God wants to do something in your life. Maybe you're here today and you're not connected with the church. We're not about trying to just get you to connect with New Covenant. God is blessing this ministry. God has given us phenomenal favor. I say to pastors all the time, I know you all keep talking about being a small church. We might be the biggest small church around because God has given us phenomenal favor because we have a big dream. And today I believe that if you're here and you're not connected with ministry, if you don't have somebody speaking into your life, I'd love to do that. Now where you join church is up to you. That's your decision. That's between you and God. But what I'll promise you is this, that I'll speak into your life. I'll cover you in prayer. I'll be there to walk you through whatever life puts you through while you make that decision. Would you slip your hand in the hand of the person closest to you? Father, we thank and bless you today for the largeness of this vision and this worship. For every person that's here today, not by accident, but by divine providence, to hear a word that's going to shift their destiny to the next level. I hear you saying, Lord, that to whom much is given, much is required. And so, God, even as you bless through this congregation and those who are here today to bear witness, remind all of us that we have a responsibility to help others, to challenge them to dream big, and to know that we serve a great big God. So bless us, but please bless through us. God, we give you praise and honor and all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. We'll put your hands together, give God praise.